Everyone was talking. So the superintendent in Chicago said that he told the teachers unions, no, we're gonna have school. Real tough guy. We're gonna have school, but after school, we're gonna let our buses, taxpayer-paid buses, take the kids over to these protests. So I don't know, if your kid wanted to come home after school, I guess they're out of luck. We'll see what we can learn about that. In the meantime, while they're boycotting school and work and shopping, they also want to tax the rich for sure. That's a huge part of this. With me now, Kaylee McGee-White, editor-in-chief of Independent Women Features, Steamboat Institute senior fellow and Fox News contributor, and Melissa DeRosa, Democratic strategist. Great to have you both with us, ladies. Thank you for being here. So I guess if your kid, had soccer practice and wanted to get home, they're on their way to the protest. I don't know that for sure, but that we didn't hear if there was an organization for those kids to get where they wanted to go.
Yeah, and for those unfamiliar with what May Day is, it's under the guise of supporting workers' rights, but really what it is it's a celebration of socialism. And unfortunately, I'm not surprised at all that these activists are targeting young adults and students in my generation in particular. For years and years, they've treated the youth as their ideological foot soldiers. And even Mike Tobin was just reporting about elementary school students getting on a bus to be present at this protest. You've seen some of the signs. There's profanity, there's vulgarity. And for children to be exposed to that, not just to the toxic ideas that they're being presented with, is really disturbing and should really cause parents to be alarmed at what's happening in the public school system.
Yeah, Melissa, we see what happened
Absolutely.
in Maine, where you have Graham Plattner, who's now
Shameful.
the lead candidate, and there's a lot of Democrats pushing back against Chuck Schumer. They're like, you gave us this candidate, Janet Mills, she wasn't going anywhere. She is 78 years old. It's time for you to move aside. Let us pick the candidates. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, the 78-year-old piece I find hilarious because it's so selectively applied, right? How old is Bernie Sanders?
Good point.
How old is Elizabeth Warren? These people are in their 70s and 80s, but they're just fine. So it's not about age and generational change. It's about the fringe of the party. And for the moderate wing of the Democratic Party that I belong to, we are increasingly feeling politically homeless. And what you saw in Maine, you're also seeing play out in Michigan, and you're seeing play out all across the country, where the DSA is trying to go from being what they have traditionally been viewed as, which is the extremist far flank of the Democratic Party, and they are now trying to move over and say, we've got this, we are now in charge. And so there is a civil war that's brewing, and it's been bubbling under the surface, and now it's breaking out into the open.
Do you think it hurts them in the midterms?
I think it hurts us in general elections. I do. I think that in Michigan, if you had someone like Mallory who actually were to be successful, I think we'd have a better shot at winning statewide, and I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I see the same polling everyone else does. I see that Graham Plattner does appear, based on polling, to have a shot to beat Susan Collins, but I don't believe when push comes to shove and the Republicans really get going on their oppo machines and they really educate Maine voters as to who this guy is and his history, that he'll win. So, but to the DSA and the far flank of the party, they'd rather win in the primaries and take over the party, even if it means losing in the general, because they want to win the soul of the party and push moderates out and feel like they don't have a voice and fill that void.
Kaylee, big concern, obviously, in the organization of some of these events. We see 600 groups, $2 billion, and some investigative reporting done by Azra Namani points to Chinese influence and money going to support these groups. It's a very soft power way to undermine the American stability and government by filling people's heads with this stuff.
Yeah, well, any deep investigation into the numbers reveals very quickly that these protests aren't organic. They're well planned. They're organized by left-wing groups, including Soros-funded organizations that do want to sow chaos and undermine the current administration, obviously, but continue to spread the social ideas of leftism. It's all about hijacking the culture and making leftism the dominant ideology. And again, they use young Americans to do it. We saw this play out on college campuses over the past couple of years, where many of these students were asked directly what they knew about what they were supposed to be protesting about, and many didn't even have an answer. And in one of your previous segments, David Esmond asked that. He said, I wonder if they've been taught the truth about socialism, the things that they're protesting in support of? And the answer is no.
Yeah.
I know many of these young adults
I'd
do
love
not
to
know
take
the
a
truth.
mic into this crowd and ask them why they think people are so happy in Venezuela now that their socialist dictator was overthrown. We gotta go. Thank you very much, Melissa DeRosa, Kaylee McGee-White. Great to see you both. Thank you. Quick break. We'll be right back with more. But as always, the story goes on a new episode of the Untold Story podcast. Technology and healthcare futurist Jamie Metzl joined me. Fascinating discussion about AI and the future. Also, join me on the 5 because I will be joining the crew and I will see you there. Will Kane starts right now.
Well, happy Friday, live from Texas. This is the Will Kane Show, and we have a jam-packed show today. We're going to catch up with Kid Rock. He's here in Dallas, kicking off his Freedom 250 tour. But first, he sat down with me, and we're keeping an eye on the villages of Florida. President Trump is set to take the stage very soon. We'll be watching that throughout the hour. There's already a big crowd ready to go to receive President Trump. But in big cities across the U.S., a very different kind of crowd. And that's where we start today. It is May Day in America, which means right now there are scenes all across the country like this. Thousands of Americans are not in school, not at work, not shopping. Instead, they're protesting, pushing, quote, workers over billionaires. But if their singing is any indication, they really should hang on to their day jobs.
The people united will never be defeated. No Trump, no KKK, no racist USA. No Trump, no KKK, no racist USA. Up with liberation.
Multiple people arrested outside the New York Stock Exchange. Police telling Fox about 150 people were blocking multiple entrances. And out on the West Coast, massive crowds are continuing to gather in Los Angeles, marching down the street. That has been some of the biggest crowds we've seen. A similar story in Raleigh, North Carolina, where thousands turned out for a teacher rally. Organized, coordinated, and it turns out, well-funded. A number of these anti-billionaire protests are being funded by, you guessed it, billionaires, something that calls for a Will Kane investigation. Let's start at the beginning. What is May Day Strong? Its roots are in the 19th century in Paris, when Marxist, socialist, and labor unions called for a day of strikes. In 1886, the first May Day protest was held in Chicago, leading to the Haymarket affair. Several days later, when an agitator threw a bomb at police, it evolved into a brawl, killed several people. That's how it started. Here's how it's going. Fox Digital reporting some 600 groups with a combined $2 billion in revenue, part of a sprawling, quote, red-blue network, are behind 3,000 demonstrations nationwide. Quote, at the center of the May Day mobilization is a network of communist, socialist, Marxist, and other far-left organizations led by chapters of the Democratic Socialist of America, and a coalition of groups including the People's Forum, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Answer Coalition, and Code Pink.
Communist
These
Democrats trying to infiltrate the minds of our children.
Tech tycoon Neville Roy Singham. He's now based in Shanghai and is described as promoting Chinese Communist Party propaganda. We've told you about Neville Roy Singham many times here on this show, and he's continually a character at the center of these stories. Let's take a look at the other organization fueling today's so-called resistance over at the wall. First up, Indivisible. It is, quote, in support of workers over billionaires. That's the motto, and its organization is against this, quote, fascist clown show of a regime. Its Indivisible guide focuses on protecting family, neighbors, democracy from Trump 2.0. And it's made up of about 2,500 local chapters. It's this from Fox News.
Communist.
Indivisible has received millions of dollars in funding over the years from billionaire George Soros, Philanthropy Network, and it has led the organizing for 3 different no-killings protests produced after Trump's inauguration to protest his administration. Now, moving on, we also have some groups that you've heard of, including Move On. It's among the first organizations to scale internet-based political organizing. It started as an online petition during the Clinton impeachment. Today, it uses these digital tactics to mobilize millions for progressive candidates and legislation. And then finally, the one we're often asked about, the Democratic Socialists of America. The Democratic Socialists of America have something like 100,000 members across 50 states and chapters. It's the largest U.S. socialist organization. Leadership, by the way, requires a maximum of 50% men and a 20% minimum of people of color. Now, all three of these groups are social welfare nonprofit organizations. That's what we refer to as dark money. That allows them to engage in political activity without disclosing their donors. Which is where my next guest comes in. She's been on top of this story every step of the way and was out at some of the protests today. It's Fox News Digital Senior Editor of Investigations, Azra Nomani. Azra, it's always good to see you. You were out there today. You saw, I presume, the same thing you've seen at No Kings and many other protests, many of these same groups.
Yeah, all the same groups, and they went into the streets like foot soldiers in an army of these professional protesters. I brought you back the souvenirs. This time they made some handmade flowers to dance with. They have their anti-Trump mantra, Trump must go now. What is this? Refuse fascism, communists. Party for Socialism and Liberation from Neville Royce syndrome. Trump is a symptom, capitalism is the disease. What do they want to do? They want to destroy America as we know it. And I love this one, Will. Billionaires don't teach our kids from the National Education Association. Because apparently today, teachers don't teach kids either because they take the day off. You know, we examined the network, Will, and I gotta say, coming back from the streets, these folks are so out of touch with reality. They want to bring to America a system that has failed across the world. They are mean, they are rude, they are crude. I saw the 86-47 all over the place. They are just so destructive in their corrosive ideology. And I can't even believe I survived it, honestly, Will. Sometimes I say, I'm a war correspondent in my own country because when you go amongst this crowd, you really see people who are trying to destroy America from within.
Azra, knowingly? So I'm always curious, I see these images here on the screen. How many of these people that I'm looking at on our screen right now are official members of these organizations who do have stated goals? They have websites, they say what they want, and it is to destroy America. But how many of these people are also just useful idiots that join in the protest on May Day?
Well, it's just like you said, 600 organizations, $2 billion in collective revenues, unleashing 6,000 events around the country. That's an orchestrated campaign, and they need the myth of the marching millions. So they bring in these well-intentioned people, and I met some of them. They seemed really kind and good intentioned, but then I gotta tell you, they were in the minority because once you really spoke to a lot of these folks, you know, even I met, you know, folks in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who were just, you know, just unleashing so much vitriol that they had lost any bit of rationality and being able to have a conversation about politics or the state of our union. And ultimately, I don't think that the well-intentioned people are going to save the day when it comes to these forces because the money is so big. You know, Neville Royce Singham funding so much of this corrosive ideology in order to actually do the bidding of a foreign adversary called the Chinese Communist Party. That is a enemy that is on our streets today, and I walked among them, Will, and I gotta say that I am even more convinced that the work that we're doing is so critical.
You know why I left the Democratic Party 2020, 2010.
Have the government do whatever it can to dismantle
It didn't.
the
I didn't leave the
nonprofit
Democratic Party. They left
infrastructure that
me
allows them
to go to
exist.
things like
This
this
country will not be recognizable in the
and to
decades
take the
to
Ten
come.
Commandments
I was
out of our
watching some video a
schools,
little bit earlier
godly
today,
principles
Audra,
out of our
a report from
teaching.
Mike Tobin, who's live in Chicago.
And we brought
today.
in the National
And the mayor of
Education
Chicago there,
Association
at
and
the front
Saul
of the protests,
Alinsky
Brandon
tactics
Johnson
with
there, leading
Hillary
these protests.
Clinton and
I couldn't
Barack
help but notice that
Obama,
around him, of course, many of the signs
who I
users held
supported
up,
on his first
but also flags.
run for president,
I saw
but I
flags
didn't support
from
him
virtually
after I
every
found out the
country
real
across
him
the world
and watched him in
except
action.
for
Right.
the United States of America.
Yeah, I marched, Will, with a woman who was carrying in both hands the flag of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And above her, with the code pink
And there
banner,
is a communist,
was the flag of Venezuela
mayor
supporting the communist regime
Chicago,
there. The flag
shamefully
of Palestine supporting
calls
the
himself a
tyrants
teacher
that
too.
are actually Hamas.
Sheesh.
And the ideology of
He's a
all these
teacher of
autocratic
evil.
nations like Cuba, North Korea, and China were flying just, boldly right by the White House, Will. That's the beauty of the United States of America, and it is also going to be our Achilles heel, because this is, not to mix metaphors, but like a Trojan horse coming into the United States through all the freedoms that we allow, literally marching in front of the White House, yelling to 86, the President of the United States.
Yeah.
It's distressing.
Well, thank you for covering this, Ozra, as you're pointing out. I do think it's important to understand the nonprofit funding and organization behind this. These aren't spontaneous movements. It isn't coincidental. This is on May Day, dating back to the 1800s, a day for Marxists. And here we are today in America with this kind of turnout on the streets. Ozra Naman, thanks so much. President Trump is speaking right now from the Villages of Florida. There's a huge crowd down there for him now as well, so let's listen in.
I won't use the word, an attempt, they say, on my life. I should be indoors at a secure facility where I can quietly, beautifully, and safely play out my term, destroying everything that comes in our way, like bad countries that want to get nuclear weapons. We'll take care of that. So they want me to be in a secure place. I said, what's more secure than the Villages? I heard the seniors were waiting at the Villages, and there's no way we got like 97% of the vote. Remember all those frauds? They said, whoa. Remember Sleepy Joe and Kamala? They came up, oh, we love you more than Trump. And he said, no, you don't. You don't love us more. You're a bunch of phony bastards. But as you know, this is the single largest community of seniors anywhere in the world, and frankly, it's the largest crowd you've ever had assembled. You know, it's very interesting. They built this, but when I first started, they didn't have this. We had a little tiny room, so we went outside. We had a tremendous crowd, but I don't know if you see what's going on. They have an overflow room that's bigger than this. Why the hell didn't I go there to start off? What's going on? And then they have outside, they have thousands and thousands of people, and we love them all. We love them all. So, we're here to celebrate a policy that benefits every American senior all across this land, and it's called No Tax on Social Security. It's done. It's done. You know, I took a poll at one of the events. I said no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, or no tax on Social Security. All of them. So let's do it now. Let's do another poll. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax. So what you do is you're going to cheer for the one you like the most of the three, all right? No tax on tips. No tax on overtime. No tax on Social Security.
And I love you, Donald Trump.
I'm telling you, Dr. Phil, that's the one they like. This Social Security, I thought that was maybe a sleeper. This is more than a sleeper. No tax on Social Security for our great seniors. That's what we like, right? So our great, big, beautiful bill was the largest tax cut in American history. And as a result, more than 51 million American seniors now pay a federal tax rate of 0. 0. And this isn't talk. This isn't, I'm going to get it for you. Look, these guys up here, front row Joes, they're all, I can't get rid of them. What are you, 219? I think they're 219 brothers. They are sick individuals, but we love them. I don't know what the hell they do, but they have money someplace because they do a lot of tripling. Look at the front row Joes. But we provide seniors, and we have a record-setting average tax deduction this year of more than $7,500. Think of that. You know, it's been amazing. And on all of them, people, and I've seen it even on the fake news. Look at all the fake news back there. What? That's a lot of fake news. That's a lot of fake news. That's a lot of fakers. Did you see where they had a study done, and Trump on the evening news gets 93% bad publicity? 93. And yet, I won in a landslide. Now, you know what that means? Well, think of it. 93%. And you know, like with Kamala, she made a bad statement on CBS 60 Minutes, and they had to pay me a lot of money, $38 million. You know what she did? Her statement was so bad the night before the election, it was so bad, that they took another answer that she gave, which was not bad. It wasn't good, it was nothing. And they put it in where she, and we found out they did it. They changed the answers. BBC has me AI saying about hate. We hate, we hate. I said, that's not me. They changed my lips. I couldn't even tell myself. I said, I didn't know. This gets very, but think of it, 93% bad stories, only bad. And if it's a good story, they make it bad. You know, you can make anything bad. You can have a baseball team won 21-2, and the writer says they should have won by more. That's where we are. We're winning 25-0, and they say we should be doing more. There's never been a first term of a president, they say, and even the radical left lunatics say it, that's accomplished more than we have. It's never happened. Never happened. But just to finish off, you know, I love the weave, because the weave is great. You go out, Pa, go out, you always have to come back. Someday I won't come back, and they'll say, all right, he's shot. That's the end of it. The weave, I call it, the weave, because you get a lot of stories into one little sentence. But when you have 93% and you win in a landslide, you know what it means? It means that the media has lost total credibility. Nobody believes them. That's what it means. Very simple. But thanks to the massive tax cut, American seniors just received your largest tax refunds of all time, by far. And here in the Sunshine State, we've issued 2.5 million Florida seniors over $13 billion. Now think of that. Now I don't happen to be a senior. I'm much younger than you. I'm a much younger man than you. Look at you old guys. Wouldn't you like to be my age? It's young, vital, vibrant. Now I'm much, much younger than the people in this room, but I feel I can relate to you anyway. See, now the fake news will go tonight and they'll say, he's claiming to be younger than the people. You understand? That means more money to visit your grandkids, bigger budget for taking a trip to someplace that you want to go, or extra dinners out with your family. You're going to do a lot. You're going to do a lot. You know what to do with the money. But I saw it recently. People are being interviewed. And yeah, why don't you sit down here? Come on, front row Joe, sit down. Get them all to sit down. You know, it must be good when front row Joes still stand up after 300 or something, whatever the hell. They're still standing. That's pretty good. But it's been an amazing period of time. Our country is hot again. We have a great country again. We're respected as a country again. So these are your golden years, but these are really beyond your golden years. This is the golden age of America. This is where we are. We're in a period of time, and you've lived, and you're going to live a long time longer, but you're going right now through the golden age of America. The crooked Joe Biden people, these are radical left lunatics that almost destroyed our country. I'll tell you what, if we didn't win this election, I believe our country was dead. I don't think it could have sustained the open borders, transgender mutilization of your children. I believe our country, men playing in women's sports, they say that's an 80-20 issue. It's not. It's a 99-1 issue. The mutilization of your children, that's a 99-1 issue. These aren't 80-20. They say that's a 70-30 issue. It's not a 70. It's every one of them, and so many others. Frankly, look, they have the worst policy in history, but they stick together. Republicans have to stick together. If we stick together, we can't be, because we have great policy, common sense policy. Under crooked Joe Biden, American seniors were ravaged by the worst inflation in the history of our country, devastating the budget, senior citizens. You know, when I say the history of our country, I'm always criticized because they correct me. They say it was 48 years. It wasn't history. It was 48. And I think that sounds pretty bad, too. I actually think 48 years, it sounds more specific. It actually is better. So they say the worst inflation in 48 years. I say the history of our country. But you had the worst inflation we've ever seen. Prices soared, healthcare costs skyrocketed, as Biden and the radical left Democrats in Congress allowed 25 million illegal aliens to pour into our country. This was an invasion of our country. Tell them to turn up the microphone, will you please? Turn up the mic. You know, I hate it. You pay these guys a lot of money, and then you get up and the mic isn't on properly. And then they want their money, and I don't believe in paying people to do a bad job. I only like to pay people. I pay early. And I'm screaming my ass off because the mic is no good. Turn the mic up, please. Amazing. But all of that changed the day I took the oath of office on January 20th, 2025. Under the Trump administration, we're standing up for American seniors like no president has ever stood up before. And just as I promised, we're strongly protecting Social Security and Medicare, and we always will. We have a man here who knows more about Medicaid, Medicare, medical crap than any human being. Where's Dr. Oz? Where the hell are you, Stan? He's great. It's the most boring trip I've ever made. He's telling me about Medicare, Medicaid. All I want to do is take care of you. I don't care. I said, you work out the details, but I did say, give them the max. That's all I care about. Give them whatever the hell the max is. But Oz has been great. You have been great. And Bobby's been great. He's a little different. Do you agree? We needed somebody a little different, and we got him in Bobby Kennedy, right? But they work together. And it's great. You know, I brought somebody else with me, central casting for a Treasury Secretary. If you're casting a movie, look at them, they're already excited. You know, a lot of people didn't know him. He was very successful, great success actually, but people didn't know him. Now he walks down the street and people are asking for his autograph. It's crazy. I'd stand up, please. Scott Bassett. They wanted to be here. You know, I gave him an option. I said, I can meet you guys later. No, you're going to the villages. We want to be with you. So it's sort of go. We got a lot of celebrities here, actually. But together with the Republicans in Congress, we removed nearly 300,000 illegal aliens from the Social Security roll. And we've removed more than 100,000 migrants from Medicare eligibility, 100,000, and the number's going up. What we're really doing is saving Social Security because it was so rife with fraud, and the Democrats didn't care. They couldn't care less. All they care about is Trump derangement syndrome. They are sick. They are lunatics. We're dealing with lunatics. You can do, but I've learned, with time I've learned, if I want something, I go the opposite. In other words, if I want the wall, I say, I will not, under any circumstances, build the wall. And they give me all the money I want. So just go the opposite. They're crazy. They're crazy. It actually is a disease. I think they're going to register it next week, Trump derangement. Trump derangement syndrome. They're going to, TDS, it's commonly known as TDS. This man, an incurable case of TDS. To further stop Medicare and Medicaid from being looted by criminals and thugs, we've launched a war on fraud. You've been watching it in the papers. We're all over Minnesota, California, all over. They're taking down hundreds and hundreds and even thousands of people a week and a day. It's led by great Vice President J.D. Vance. He's doing a great job. I said, J.D., I want that job. I want to do it as president. They said, let's do a little delegation, please. But J.D.'s done a great job. Thousands and thousands of people are, it's a fraud. I mean, look at the wonderful country. It's a beautiful country. You should try it sometime. Somalia, it's a beautiful place. It's got no government. It's got no military. It's got no anything. It's got one thing that's really strong, crime. It's got a lot of crime. They have no police. All they do is run around shooting each other. It's filthy dirty, disgusting dirty. It's a horrible place. They come here, and Ilhan Omar, you ever hear her? She heads it. And think of it. They have nothing but crime, poverty, pollution. Everything is horrible over there. Nothing good. They say it's the worst country anywhere in the world, that we got some beauties out there, but it's the worst. And then she comes here from Somalia, and she tells us how to run the United States of America. She says, the Constitution gives me certain rights. And I demand that I be given these rights. Get the hell out, what a phony. And then she married a brother to come in. I don't know, But I would imagine they're looking at her. I have nothing to do with it. I would imagine. Of course I have nothing to do. I have nothing, but I believe she married her brother, which is totally illegal. Although it's a lovely couple, actually, but it's a little bit on the illegal side. Darling, I love you very much. Good night, brother. Let's go to bed. Isn't she despicable? I can't stand watching. I can't stand it. Did you see last month, she accidentally checked the wrong box and said she was worth $38 million. And law enforcement came after her for that. And then all of a sudden she was worth less than $80,000. And she said it was accounting. It was an accounting error. That was not a very good accountant, was it? Huh? No, their whole life is based on fraud and a scam. The whole thing is a scam, and we ought to get those people the hell out of our country. To get better care to our seniors much more quickly, my administration has dramatically accelerated Medicare prior authorization's a big deal. That's what used to take days and weeks and months to get, and now you're getting it done in a matter of minutes. Really, unbelievable job you've done. Minutes. And we have a big search for fraud. Very little. When people get arrested all over Minnesota, all over California, when you see what we're coming up with in California, Gavin Newsom is not good. But he gave the worst interview a month ago. Did you see it? Where he said he was incompetent, he can't read, he can't write, he can't do it. He said he's horrible for testing. We should give him a cognitive test. I took 3 of them. Aced all of them, by the way. You know, I'm the only president to take a cognitive test, because I don't think Obama could pass it. I don't. Didn't he get into Harvard with a C average? I don't know. What's that? I don't think he could pass it. I don't think, well, Biden isn't. Give me a break. You know, the first question is very easy. It's a lion, a giraffe, a bear, and a shark. They say, which one is the bear? And everybody says, oh, 30 questions. Everyone says, very standard. It's a very standard test, but very tough around those last 10 questions. Not too many people, even in this very room, unlike Newsom, I'll say, this room of geniuses. He said, I'm in a room of dumb people. That was not good. That was not good. You know what happened to him after that? It wasn't a pretty, but I'm in a room of brilliant people, but a lot of you wouldn't have been able to answer those 10 questions. And when I got the score in the test, the doctor said, wow, I've never seen, you know, you have 5 doctors lined up, they're all over the place. I said, should I take it? You know, I've had different phases. They've said, he's a mad genius. I didn't mind that too much. Then they said, he's a horrible human being. I don't like that much. Then they said, he's really not a smart person at all. I really hated that. So I took a cognitive test, and I said to the doctor, first doctor is Dr. Ronnie. You know Doc Ronnie. We all love Doc Ronnie. But he had a whole team of doctors at Walter Reed, a great place. I said, so should I do it? He said, well, it's a tough exam, actually. You know, those last 20 questions, they get tough. A lot of people can't do them. I said, well, what do you think? He said, well, if you do it, they're going to find out, because it's essentially a public, you know, it's a military hospital. If you do badly, they're going to find out, and it won't be pleasant. I said, well, I do well and things, so let's do it. And I got everyone right. And these are tough questions. These are tough questions, you know. They say, take a number, any number. Okay, I'll take 99. Multiply times 9, okay? Divide it by 3, good. Add 4,293, that's good. Divide by 2. Subtract 93. Divide by 9. What is your answer? Now they go a little slower than that, but not much. I don't want to waste a lot of time. But there aren't a lot of people that get it right. I got it right. You know, it was actually longer and more complex than that. But no, it's a tough test, so I took it. And then, everyone said, all right, good, he's smart. He's smart. It's not really smart. It's like, you know what we are, really? We have common sense. We're people with common sense. Right? We like strong borders. We don't like open borders for the world to pour into our country, right? From prisons all over the Congo, all over South America. The Congo, I tell you what, the Congo, they just used to think that we were just an open cesspool where they take all their prisoners and dump them into our country. Parts of South America, the same thing. It's terrible. So, as you know, we've done a fantastic job. But I just felt, and I put out yesterday a statement, I think anybody running for president or vice president should be forced to take a cognitive examination. When you get a guy, he gets in, he's got a good line of crap, he gets in, and all of a sudden you're stuck with a man who's a moron. No, this is not good. This is not good. We went through 4 years of it. It's not a good situation. But we've also dramatically increased coverage for outpatient clinical care known as site-neutral payments, stopping seniors from being ripped off by billions of dollars of outrageous fees that they charge, billions and billions of dollars, right? Oz. And on top of these major Medicare improvements, I'm pleased to report today that we have authorized $210 million in rural health care funding for the great state of Florida. 210. We're taking some of the money that they scammed. You know, we're catching billions of dollars, billions. Minnesota, it's like you ever hear the expression, shooting fish in a barrel? It's like shooting fish in a barrel. And that governor and that attorney general are so crooked. It's so horrible. It's so horrible. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Well, stranger things have happened, I will tell you. By the way, and our Attorney General is doing a very good job, isn't he? Todd Blanche, she's doing a very good job. A lot of action. There's a lot of pent-up action. Perhaps most importantly for our great seniors, I've secured the largest reduction in drug prices in American history. You say it. Under my most favored nation agreements, we are delivering you the record-setting discounts with price differences of 400%, 500%, and 600, 700, and even sometimes 800% reductions. Now, some people would say it's 80, 90, 70, depends on the way you phrase the statement, but it could be 500, 600%, it could be 90%. It doesn't matter. We've got you the largest reductions in history, the largest reductions. We were the most overpriced. We had the highest price for prescription drugs anywhere in the world, and now we have the lowest prices anywhere in the world. That's all you have to know. And to get that, because Oz said to me, it's going to be very tough. The drug companies are going to be bad, but we had to get the approval of other nations. As an example, I talk about the fat drug. The fat drug, a friend of mine who's extremely fat and very wealthy and very obnoxious. He's a very unattractive individual, actually. But he's extremely smart, very, very successful. He's a highly neurotic person, semi-controlled. I would say, usually I like to say I like a neurotic person, but it has to be controlled. This guy's only semi, but he was in London, and he calls me, he goes, President, in New York, I'm paying like $87 for the fat drug. He called it the fat shot. I've given it that name, the fat shot. And I said, well, it's not working too well for you. But he said, I pay $87 in London. In New York, I'm paying like $1,300. So I'm paying like $1,300 and $87. What's that all about? And other people would call me the same, but he made a big input because he's a very smart guy. He said, you know what, I had it traced. It's made in the same factory. It's made by the same company. Everything's the same except the price. One's $87 and one's $1,300. He said, this is ridiculous. And it did hit me the right way. And we went to town, didn't we, Oz? We went to town. And we shamed the drug prices because they were, for years, said, well, it's research and development. I said, well, it's research and development for them also, right? But we got them. They weren't easy, but we got all of them lined up. But they said it didn't matter. The reason we got them because they said we'd never get the other countries. We had to get approval of the other countries where they'd have to double their prices and triple their prices. Because we come way down, they go up a little bit because the world is bigger than us, right? So they go up a little bit. So I call up, like, as an example, France. I spoke with Macron, right? Macron is a wonderful guy, president of the country, nice guy. So I say, Emmanuel, your drug prices are a tiny fraction of ours. We can't have that. We're going to have to raise it. No, Donald, I will not do that. No, you will. But Emmanuel, no, you will. 100% you're going to do it. No, I will not do it. And this went on for about 2 minutes. I'm saying you will. He's saying he won't. So most people would say he won't do it. Then I said to him, Emmanuel, if you don't do it, I'm going to put a 250% tariff on all wines and champagnes that you ship into our country. And he said, Donald, how dare you? You should not do that. You cannot do that. And I said, no, I'm going to do it. Okay, you have a deal. That was it. That was it. And I told Oz couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it. And we had the same thing with Germany. We had the same thing with the other countries. I said, look, you're not going to do it. We're going to tariff the hell out of you at double the number that you're talking about. And they all agreed. Every one of those countries agreed. And now you have the lowest drug prices anywhere in the world from the highest. And that alone should win us the midterms. But, the fake news doesn't like to write about it. They don't even like. I noticed a couple of the cameras went off when I was talking about it. When I'm getting to a really juicy subject, to me, that's a juicy. Think of it. I mean, you talk about healthcare, it's all around medicines and everything else. And Byron, how big a deal is that, right? But, by the way, this guy's going to be a great governor. Going to be great. Ag Commissioner, you just stand up. What job he's doing. What a job he's doing. My Ag Commissioner, who I endorse so long time. So I just want to thank you all. You guys are doing a great job. Byron, you're going to be fantastic. We have somebody named Ashley who's very respected. Will you please stand up? Senator, our great senator. I suppose you're all leading like a lot. But remember, make it too big to rig. You got to go out and vote. Don't assume anything, you know. We did great in the second election. It was a rigged election, but we did great. And I said, well, I had the ultimate poll because we won the second election by a lot. So that's a good poll. So we did it again. And I said, too big to rig. You got to make it too big. They showed me leading by a lot. I said, don't be fooled. Just go out and vote because they are cheaters. They cheat like hell. But all of you have to do, and really what you want to do is Trump, and I didn't name it. This was named by Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Oz. I did not name it. Is that right? I said, what is that? TrumpRx.gov, okay? I said, everyone thinks I put my name on it. I don't think I'm going to put my name on medical things. I mean, you know, medical things can be very dangerous to have your name on, to be honest with you. But it's setting, I guess, records from what I understand. There's never been anything like it. So TrumpRx.gov, go to it and buy your medicines for very little money. Very little money difference. Nobody's ever seen it in their life. And I wish the press would talk about it, but the word is out, and it doesn't probably matter that much. The word is out. They don't want to talk about. They only want to talk about the bad. But this is really something that's special. I'm very proud of it. Today, I'm thrilled to announce that starting on July 1st, we will also provide Medicare patients with the coverage for weight loss drugs like Ozempic, Zepbound, Wegovy. It will be available for $50 a month. $50. Wow. Now think of that, $50 a month. So if it was $1,300, now it's $50, and the $1,300 doesn't cover a whole month. So it's really even more than that. So it's now down to $50. So that's where you get it. And also, and you remember when I cut insulin and I got it down to $25 insulin, it was $2,000. And that was before this. That was before this. I'm so glad you mentioned insulin. You know, when I got insulin done, it was at the end of my term and I got it done, but it doesn't kick in statutorily for 2 years. And I said, I better win the election. This is going into the second election because what a job I did. And, you know, insulin was at like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. I got it to $25, but it kicked in about a year and a half, 2 years later. Statutorily, you had to wait a period of time and all of that nonsense. So I said, boy, I better win because if I don't, some guy is going to take credit for something that I did that they could have never done. Lo and behold, the election was rigged. And I saw Biden a year later standing up there saying, I did a great job with insulin. He doesn't even know what the hell, he had no idea. And I was standing there seething. I was watching television. You know what it is to seethe? I seethe a lot. But this is one of the times I was seething. Oz knows that. I was so angry. I said, I did it and I didn't get credit for it. We did a lot of things we didn't get credit for, but I guess I did because here I am, I'm president. I guess Not only are we taking care of your physical health, we're also taking care of the financial health of our seniors. As you have probably seen, the 401ks and retirement accounts of millions of American seniors are skyrocketing like never before. You know, we're in a war because I think you would agree we cannot let lunatics have a nuclear weapon. Do you agree?
Absolutely, I agree totally. I'm thrilled you're over there, and Follow through.
Because if you read the fake polls and things, it says, well, it's only a 20% or 25. It's nonsense. Look at this. I'm talking about all these things you're getting, and you stand up when I talk about you can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. We can't. But I did something that was, I don't know, foolish, brave, but it was smart. I would do it again. But I thought the numbers would be much worse. I thought the stock market would go down much more. I thought the oil prices would go up much more. I said, but we have no choice. Whether it does or doesn't, I have to do what's right. We can't let them have a nuclear weapon. So I called in Scott Bassett and all of my people, mostly my financial people, and I said, all right, folks, congratulations. We just hit the highest price in the history of the stock market. So I said the Dow would never hit 50 during my 4 years because it was too much of a raise. They thought 6, 7 years out, maybe you could hit 50,000. They said the S&P could never hit 7,000, right, Scott? That would be even more unlikely. Maybe at the end of the 4th year, but probably not. It would be 5, 6 years out. And we hit 50,000 on the Dow before the end of my first year. We hit 7,000 on the S&P before the end of my first year. The stock market is rocking and rolling. Your 401ks are at the highest they've ever been. I don't have to list. I don't know how the hell you could be doing badly. But your 401ks are setting records. I have people coming up to me and saying, you made me a hero to my wife. You made me a hero. I've had numerous policemen. I had one guy from years ago because I did the same thing. We had the greatest financial markets in the history of our country in my first term. We're blowing it away now. We're blowing everything away. There's never been a country this successful in that sense before. But now I said, okay, did you ever do this? Well, you're doing so well. I said, so we just set every record. We have the highest market in history. We have things that just go. And by the way, there are more jobs today in our country than at any time in the history of our country by far. Right? So, but we have to think a little long term. And I said to Scott and Howard and all of the people that worked for me, great people, Jameson, Greer, all of them. I called them in and I said, fellas, congratulations. We have the highest stock market we've ever had. Everyone's doing great. Oil prices were very low. They were 60 and 70. You were buying oil for $2 and even less. Remember, just a couple of months ago, you were at $2 and $1.85. In Iowa, it was $1.85 a gallon. I said, congratulations. Now I'm going to upset the apple cart for you because we have to take a little journey down to a beautiful country known as Iran. And we have to make sure that they don't have a nuclear weapon. We stopped them with the B-2 bombers. If we didn't do that, we would have had a nuclear weapon. Israel would have been blown to pieces. The Middle East would have been blown to pieces. I think Europe would have been blown to pieces. But under what we were doing, I said, look, we're going to have to make this journey. So it's almost like we built up this great thing. And then I said, now we have to break the eggs a little bit, and we have to go and do it. And the only thing that I'm surprised is that I really thought oil would be, Dr. Oz, we talked about it. I thought oil would be much, much higher than it turned out to be. I mean, it's not low. It's certainly not low. It's going to come crashing down as soon as this war is over, and they're getting decimated. They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. They have no radar. They have no leaders. Their leaders are all gone. Very sad, very fine people. But with all of that, I said we have to do it. So I think you understand. But I am surprised. I thought the stock market would go down by 25%. I thought that oil prices would be at much higher than they are right now. They're not nearly as high as I thought. And we're gonna, look, we're winning so big. We're winning again. Their Air Force is gone. Their ships are gone. They have a Navy, 159 ships. That's a pretty good Navy. Within the first week, 159 out of 159 ships are right now lying at the bottom of the sea. Their Navy is gone. And we're discussing, I spoke to them today, we're discussing, it's a little hard to figure out who their leaders are, frankly. You know, their leaders are gone. The first set is gone. The second set is gone. Khomeini was gone. And they were pretty evil people. Not pretty evil, they were evil. They killed 42,000 protesters. 42,000! And in a period of 2 weeks, they killed 42,000 protesters. But we had to get this done, and we're really doing well. We're just winning. If it were a fight, they'd stop it. If this were a fight, they'd stop it. You know that expression, it's true. But they're not coming through with the kind of deal that we have to have, and we're going to get this thing done properly. We're not going to leave early and then have the problem arise in 3 more years. Under 4 years of Crooked Joe, I go crooked and sleepy. Which is better, Sleepy Joe or Crooked Joe? Ready? Sleepy Joe. Crooked Joe. I love it. It's 3 polls. You know, if I went to a pollster, they're all phony. If I went to a pollster, I'd pay $1 million for that question. Give me $1 million, sir. And then they don't go to interview. They just put it down, whatever they want. They say, we scoured the countryside. They didn't scour. They sit in their room watching television. They say, oh, let's give Trump a little bit of an advantage that makes him happy. Under 4 years of crooked Joe Biden, the average 401k rose at the rate of $875 a year. Okay, that's something, a little raise. But you know why he rose? Because of me with the 4 years that we had. Because after that, there was nothing. He would have gone down. They took over the momentum of what we created in the first 4 years, which was incredible. Under Trump, so it's $875. Under Trump, the number 875 is the rise, $30,000. So it's 875 versus $30,000. For seniors, that number is 50.
That's President Trump speaking at the Villages in Florida. We're going to have to wrap up our show soon and hand it over to the 5. But before we do, we want to share with you this. I sat down with Kid Rock, who is kicking off tonight his Freedom 250 tour right here in Dallas. And I spoke to him about his inspirations from patriotism to his support for the United States military. We wanted to share that with you. Tell me a little bit about this tour. You're not just here in Dallas, you're going to be all over.
Yeah, we're doing 14 shows between Rock the Country and the Freedom 250 tour. And I mean, I've always been pretty patriotic in my shows. And this was just an excuse to take it completely over the top. So I got a couple cannons made. I have a Liberty Bell, replica of the Liberty Bell we got made. As I hinted the other day, I may or not be getting dropped off by a couple Apaches for the show intro every night. There's a great choir soundtrack that starts with just these images of American history, everything from Betsy Ross sewing a flag to, you know, looks like Harriet Tubman walking through the woods at night. You know, just real.
I like him.
There's never been a more patriotic rock and roll show in the history of rock and roll.
You just said I've always been pretty patriotic in my shows, but has it always been the case, or was there a moment for you? Like when I started listening to you in the 90s, I'm not sure that was as big a part of your image as it is today. Was there something that happened or changed?
I mean, it was still had a little more edge to it. I mean, you know, American Badass was on my second successful record, but that was not necessarily this big patriotic song. I think it really started with the bombing of the USS Cole. And my mother really encouraged me from her brother being in Vietnam, her dad in World War II to, you know, I was very successful at that time. I really just hit it big to do something, you know, to help out, because they were playing my music when that ship got towed out of the harbor and 17 sailors lost their lives. So we ended up playing a show in Virginia and giving all that money to those families, and that really started just a whole another level of not just patriotism, but really doing my part to try and help out, you know, and go wherever the military called, wherever the USO or the Armed Forces Network called, any war-torn country around the world. And as we know, those were some long wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. So it's really been some of the toughest work I've ever done, but hands down the most rewarding and something that I couldn't be more proud of.
I didn't know that about they were playing your music when they towed that out.
They told them that they could play patriotic music, and one of the sailors kind of locked the door and put out American Badass.
Okay.
And was worried that he was going to get court-martialed and get in some trouble from it. It's got some racy language in it. And then I met with all those, you know, sailors and stuff, and it just really snowballed from there. It was like, wow, this is the right thing to do my little part, you know, having not served. to be able to go and be with these kids, these men, women, the finest America has, and entertain them, spend some time with them, tell them thank you. And the most mind-blowing thing is every time is they end up thanking you profusely with coins and flags and gifts and all this other stuff. And it's just incredible. And I say that
thanking you for being there.
Yes, and I say that to employ. I know a lot of celebrities have done it. I say it always, and I try to hammer it home. If you haven't done it, I would encourage you to do it. All you have to do is reach out and make a call. They're happy to have you. They can send you anywhere. You can go to a base by your house here in America. You can fly to Afghanistan if you want. But it's just means so much to be there for our troops.
You were in the news this week. You were in Washington, D.C. with our, in all transparency, mutual friend, the Secretary of War. And the press is saying, here is the United States military giving Kid Rock joyrides on Apache helicopters, using the military for your own show.
Yeah, what a spin. I mean, this is what mainstream media and the trolls on social media do. This is nothing new, not just for me, but for any celebrity, musician, athlete, actor, anything, who's been and done USO tours and things for our troops. I mean, through 2 decades, it's not my first time on helicopters. I've flown Blackhawks to FOBs, and they've given me a little cowboy action in them. Shot 50 cals hanging out of Chinooks over Iraq, and refueled fighter jets on K-5s. Shot grenade launchers. That's part of the thing. You do stuff for the military, and they want to showcase to you what they do. So whether it's they're showing you their technology or letting you shoot a gun or participate in something, that's kind of what you do. And we were talking about the first Apache thing that happened where they kind of stopped by my house and said what's up, which I thought was awesome. I told Peter, I said, what can I do? I know the press is trying to spin this into a negative, and it's such a positive thing, as he knows, as I know, from doing the stuff that I've done, him from serving, of what this does for morale for our troops. I mean, you can't speak about morale and having, and when it happens for them, what a big deal it is. And I've seen it firsthand, like I said, for decades. So I said, how can we even make this more into a positive? He said, well, whenever you want to come see some pilots, let me know. I said, name the day, I'll be there. On my own dime, no problem. So that day came Monday. They said, come on out. And they had, they weren't just going to come out and have me fly in an Apache. It worked out great because I was like, he said, we're also going to take a ride in an Apache, but we're going to do some troop visits, with these people at the base. We're also going to go to the Pentagon, do some troop touches, some troop visits there. I filmed Ticks for Vets that we're announcing today, where we're giving 250, Pete taped it with me at PSA, where we're giving 250 tickets each show, my Freedom 250 tour and Rock the Country, to veterans, but we're also giving them up to an additional 3 tickets so they can take the people that serve right along with them, their families that from behind the scenes that sometimes don't get taken care of. So there was a lot. We take messages from Memorial Day America 250. It was all that, but of course the press just focuses on, they were joyriding in Apaches. Trust me, it was a joyride.
And the argument that is being made, Kid, is that you are getting perks from the United States military because of your relationship with Pete, whether or not it's going up in Apaches or having an intro to your show. And we've been showing the images on the screen while you've been talking. Your argument to me in reverse is, I've been doing this for 20 years with the United States military.
Yeah, all these people talking, it's just noise. It's just noise. I don't need to sit here and prove what I've done.
I think it's really neat that he does that.
Spending 2 Christmases and a Thanksgiving there years ago, on and on, every war-torn country. I could name countries for days. It's all on the internet. It's all there. But yeah, people don't have a leg to stand on.
Here's the reason I think I bring this up again. Your relationship, and I have some of these relationships myself, but your relationship with a guy like Bill Maher, right? You're talking this way now, and I know you mean it, by the way, but you're also capable of having a friendship with somebody that you disagree with. And in this, look, here we are, another attempt on President Trump's life, and the country's talking crazy, and people are rhetorically edging this on more and more and more. And this idea of the relationship between you and Maher, or me and a number of friends, is either not highlighted or dying away.
It was such a positive thing for our country. It's such a time
fascinating dynamic, by the way.
When we need more of this, you know what I mean? Call it whatever it was, call it what it is. But no, they bury those stories, especially with me and people like me. It's just, let's go after the kid, which I could care less. I'm old. I'm from the school of sticks and stones. Bring it.
All right. Well, the show tomorrow night is going to be absolutely incredible. It's going to have some of what you described. I don't think I have a clip. I wish I did. It sounds like
the bad news, I would say, people that are coming to the tour this year, is, you can watch the clip. It's going to be everywhere after tomorrow night. We know how the internet works. I would say I get the people that can't come and the people in Europe and all this stuff, like, yeah, check it out, whatever you want. But if you're coming, I would say experience it live. Try to. It's like taping your favorite sports game and you hear the score before you get to watch it.
I played my 14-year-old some of your music last night, and he's like, this is really good. I really like this. And I had to decline an invitation to go tomorrow night, but I am going to accept it somewhere. I guess it won't be in Dallas, but I am going to come.
Love to have you.
Thank you, man. Kid Rock, good to see you, man.
Thanks, Will.
And if you want to hear Kid Rock give his impersonation of the ladies of The View, or you want to see me beat Kid Rock in a very competitive game of bumper pool, head over to the Will Kane Show social channels at X, Instagram, TikTok. We appreciate you hanging out with us today. We hope you will set your DVR so you never miss an episode. But now it's time for us at the end of this week to give you over to the 5.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bertha McCallum, along with Kennedy, Harold Ford Jr., Jesse Waters, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock, and it's Friday, and we're in New York City, and this is the 5.
You know, I shouldn't be here. There was just an attempt, I won't use the word, an attempt, they say, on my life. I should be indoors at a secure facility where I can quietly, beautifully, and safely play out my term, destroying everything that comes in our way.
But he doesn't want to do that, right? President Trump in Florida, his first public event since the 3rd assassination attempt on his life. This as we get shocking new footage of the would-be assassin running right through there he goes, through the security mags that we all walked through that night, just a short time before that, at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Hasn't been a week.
That's amazing that Secret Service guy was able to get his gun out to shoot it after the guy ran into him.
Protesting what they
shot him.
Rising fascism in America. Oh, that looks like it hurts. Some attempting to chain themselves to the New York Stock Exchange in Lower Manhattan today. Others chanting a modified version of the phrase that got James Comey indicted this week. Watch.
No KKK, no fascist USA!
And the usual gang of anti-Trump celebrities egging these protesters on. Watch.
Our country runs because of working people, not for billionaires or for politicians.
And when people come together, we can make our voices heard. No work, no school, no shopping.
Refuse business as usual, and let's force a change.
Everyone has a part to play. Join us on May 1st.
Workers over billionaires. This Friday, May the 1st, we're going to hit them in the pocketbook, which is the only thing they care about.
Communist.
All right, workers over billionaires. Harold.
Yes.
What do you think of this movement, watching all these kids out here, and the idea that they're told not to go to school in a country where we clearly have an education crisis, and clearly a lot of these kids don't understand how the economy works in the United States?
So first of all, I'm glad you're here. Good to be with you. Good to be around the table. A couple things. I probably wouldn't do it this way, Martha, the way that some of the rallies are being held, but I sort of take things at their core. I watch conservative protests or conservative expressions of things that they may want, and I watch liberals do similar things. I think at the heart of this is a call for things to be more affordable. I don't necessarily think you have to do it this way, but we have a tremendous and glorious and perhaps inglorious tradition of this kind of protest in our country, and I respect it. The challenge, I think, for everybody in the political system today is that no answers are really being provided. I heard you earlier today on your show, and I thought you were great talking about some of the education shortcomings in Chicago's public school system and other school systems across the country. But we need to be honest. With gas prices where they are, the kind of uncertainty people have in their lives, the Republicans aren't necessarily offering great ideas, and Democrats are not offering them either. And as a result, I think you see these kind of expressions happening across the country. You may agree with some of the things they're saying. You may disagree totally with what they're saying. But one thing is clear, even where the president is today in Florida, he's talking a lot about things that I supported, no taxes on tips and Social Security. But one of the challenges that people face is that a lot of what they may be getting back from the government in terms of their hard-earned money, tax dollars being returned to them, they're spending on grocery because groceries are higher in costs and gas is higher in costs. And I think we're going to see more expressions like this until Election Day, more likely than not. Sorry, my voice, my allergies are messing with me.
Yeah, it's bad out there. Kennedy, Harold is talking about this issue that we're seeing and these protests that we're seeing in a sort of organic protest way that things have happened over this country. I think about what happened in Boston before the Declaration of Independence. Those were pretty organic in terms of their nature. But what we're learning about a lot of these groups is that there's 600 different groups. They're funded by a lot of organizations, $2 billion. This is why you see matching signs everywhere. And one of the scariest things about it is the investigative work that Asra Nomani has done that links it to the Chinese Communist movement and government in China. This is a pretty elaborate way to try to undermine the American economy and the American people.
But also a very effective one. And it's interesting that, much of this propaganda is emanating from China, which is a communist country, and May Day is Communist Labor Day. That's what May Day has always been in parts of Europe and, even parts of South America. They have the day off. Where communism gained purchase over the decades and centuries. Communism doesn't work. It is an empty proposition, and it's very interesting that the propaganda comes from a communist place, which, people are very worried about China. America will always, always trump China because people here like to work. And the idea of this protest is, let's work less. Let's have a life based on leisure where rich people fund our wish lists. And they say they don't want any billionaires, but it's very interesting that there are plenty of billionaires who are linked to these ultra leftist causes. You also have a woman who was married to a billionaire, Jane Fonda, sitting there trying to exhort people to take time off, don't work, don't go to school, don't shop. Very easy for people like her and Robert De Niro to say when they will never have to worry about money for the rest of their lives. And the problem is what they're selling you is not aspiration. It is not a better way of life. It is not capitalistic. It is not creative. They want you to suckle off the teat of other people. They want to confiscate wealth and give it to you because you have somehow earned it by virtue of not being ambitious. That is utter hogwash. And it is a worldview that has to be absolutely abandoned. And I have faith in the American worker, not the proletariat who's being sold an empty bill of goods, but the person who is willing to toil into the night on an idea they have that might change the world, because the only way they can put that idea into action is if they're living in the United States of America. And the only way they can do that is if America remains free and not a socialistic high-tax state.
Jesse, it's so interesting as we look at the 250th anniversary of the country, and it was a declaration of independence from kings, right? And you have these no kings rallies that are going on, but I think about the fact that essentially for a lot of this movement, the new king is the government. And they want the government to run everything for them. And as Kennedy rightly points out, the country was built on spirit, hardworking spirit. I think about Tom Brady saying, no days off, right? No days off. But these people want everybody to take the day off from school, from work, from all kinds of industry.
I wish I had the day off. It's beautiful outside. Call me a commie, send me outside. The billionaires organized the thing, okay? And they're all holding iPhones made by a billionaire. They all wearing clothes that they ordered off Amazon made by a billionaire, and then they're all going to hop in their Teslas and drive home, built by a billionaire, unless they didn't burn it already. They're not going to stop because Trump almost got shot again. These people don't stop. It's a revolution. They're not going to stop until either someone dies or they overthrow the government. This is about overthrowing capitalism. These aren't your regular Democrats. These are communists. These people make the people on January 6th look like model citizens. And they were. So far, so good. Peaceful protests. No one's burned anything. No one's broken any windows. And I'd rather have them do this than light fires. And they might light fires tonight. Remember, this is going on all day. And at 5, they start drinking. And once they start drinking, they get in the cop's face, and then it gets rowdy. So we'll see how angry they really are. The ICE stuff's kind of died down. That's not driving it. The Iran war hasn't lit the fuse that you'd expect. And I bet they probably couldn't even name 5 billionaires. I do like the idea, though, of nationwide strikes. I like the idea of everyone holding the politicians hostage, because we always vote for these guys and never do what we want them to do. So maybe if we can organize it and say one day we're all not going to work, or we're all not going to buy anything unless we get summer Fridays off. We could do that. We actually have the power in our hands, in our phones, to do stuff like this. It's like collective bargaining. We should try it.
You're now for unionization?
Yes. If I get Fridays in the summer off, yes.
It's a good cause. It's a good cause. We could all probably get behind. I saw one of the flags strike downtown was they're waving a Cuban flag, and I thought, the people of Venezuela are now liberated from Maduro, who's in the jail downtown. But they're waving Cuban flags, and they may be next on the list for overthrowing the government. The people in Venezuela are elated that they don't have to deal with this socialist oppressor anymore, and yet these folks seem to want that kind of government.
There's not a single country that went through communism or socialism that is now free that want to go back. The only people who embrace communism and socialists are those who haven't experienced it and are pampered enough in their present day lives to enjoy a lifestyle independent of their own policies. The left and the media always try to catch you associating with problematic groups or people. You're in a picture with somebody. There's you have a guest on your show that was on a different show, and that's bad. Meanwhile, you have Jane Fonda, Robert De Niro, Bette Midler, others who are joining up and promoting the Maoist Communist Union, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Communist Party of the USA. I mean, that should kind of taint who they are. I mean, May Day pretends to be about honoring workers, but it really is about elevating activists who spread the message of revolution. And part of that revolution is opening all prisons, freeing all prisoners, ending free enterprise, eliminating military bases. None of these things matter to these people because they're untouched by it. Even more, these jackasses, they want everyday people to take off work, to stop working. But you know what doesn't stop working? The money those jackasses have. While De Niro and Bette Midler tell you not to, go to work, they have piles of cash earning interest every day. They make millions off a coalition of real estate and stock portfolios. They can take a day off, a month off, a year off because their money works around the clock. How did that happen? It's not socialism, that's a capitalism. They don't have bosses, they don't have a work schedule, and they don't require a salary that would feed kids because they're so well off. Their definition of work is looking at their investments. So they can do this. The other thing too is when you look at them, they really are aging celebrities who have nothing left but a shred of ego and a diminished status. One of the things Trump did, winning in 2016 and then in 2024 and in 2020, he exposed their irrelevance. Being part of the zeitgeist and part of culture, you think that you have some kind of impact. They didn't. They had no impact. Robert De Niro is in denial. Jane Fonda is in denial that they are not important to us. They are not important to the world. Their embrace of activism is an attempt to salvage their ego collapse. This is a giant hole that that was filled once with their own self-importance, and it's empty. So they just get smaller. Look at De Niro right there. De Niro was a giant figure in cinema. Now he's so small and so petty. He's like a crusty knot of resentment. And when you look at De Niro, that is what ego looks like. It's in human form, this kind of sad, frail thing that needs its own protection, but now Trump just stripped it away, and this is what they have. I love it.
A video.
I agree with what you said there.
Thank you, Harold.
I don't agree with the De Niro thing, but I agree. We have to make, they should be talking about how do you make innovation profitable for everyone again. I mean, that's the key, not asking people not to go to work. I know you weren't talking about unionization, but you're making fun of it a little bit. But I think that's what's wrong. And you nailed it. You can't tell people not to go to work. That's what America is.
That's when your money's working, you know?
But we got to make it, but what they should be saying, how do we make it profitable again for everyone, not how we...
Right, Summer Friday is optional. We'll make them optional.
And you can dream, and you can achieve things, and you can be whoever you want to be as an individual, not as some sort of collective body that has to, be Mr. and Mrs. Same Thing for the rest of their lives and achieve nothing and not go to work for one day and feel great.
You need to write that.
No Fridays off.
And Mrs. Same.
We're gonna miss Fan Mail Friday if we keep yabbering about this.
All right, we're coming up next. This is Rich. After endlessly calling Trump a Nazi, Democrats are closing up to a candidate who has a Nazi tattoo.
Doesn't surprise me any at all.
Camping World is America's used RV supercenter. We buy and sell more pre-owned RVs than anyone. We have over 22,000 quality pre-owned RVs in stock, featuring
having a Nazi tattoo on his chest and posting all sorts of crazy stuff over the years on Reddit. That's no biggie to Democrats who are saying, forgive and forget.
We went through a really rough period, PTSD type period. I do believe people should have second chances.
He has apologized. He's out meeting with the people of Maine every single day so they can evaluate not who Graham Plattner was, but who Graham Plattner is today.
That race has always been about Mainers, who they're excited about, and that's very clearly been Graham Plattner. And so, I think this is the moment that we're in.
That race, AOC? You mean that master race? Should Plattner emerge victorious? He's not being shy about what his main goal in the Senate will be. Watch.
We need to use the power we get to shut this White House down. We do that, I think one of the best ways is through committee hearings and investigations. I want the Trump administration not to function because everyone in the White House is being hauled under subpoena in front of a Senate committee day after day after day.
You're a bold-faced liar.
We have so many crimes to investigate. At this point, we could probably be doing
You're
this
a danger to yourself.
Wow, that sounds pretty fascist. Harold, I like you. You're a reasonable person. When I go out in the world, people always want to know why more Democrats can't be like Harold Ford Jr. Graham Plattner certainly is not. Do you hang your head in shame that he is the new standard bearer of your party?
Well, he's not the new standard bearer of the party, but he seems to be leading not only with Democrats there in Maine, but I don't know, polls are not the end-all be-all, but they give some snapshot. He was leading, I think, Governor Mills by big numbers, and she couldn't raise a lot of money. And I think he's even leading Senator Collins, who in many ways has been a figure in the Senate, not only for a long time, but been one that has towered above Democrats and Republicans at critical moments. As an aside, I think the criticism that he has endured, everybody has a past. And it's how you deal with your past. And his past included him going door to door in Iraq, doing some of the most dangerous and difficult work to make our country safer. I give him great grace in that regard. He said he came back with serious mental health issues and has confronted them, and now he's putting himself before the voters. I give him credit for that. Your question, though, contemplates whether or not he's become a standard bearer. His ideas are what is coloring what is the Democratic Party.
AOC, look at Mamdani. Look at the leading candidate for mayor in Los Angeles. It's a terrifying time.
But what I would ask you is not him. It's the people of Maine who you're reckoning with. Because if he's ahead in the polls, he's just the vessel for what people believe in what they want in the United States Senate. I've said all along, I don't think Democrats should run on the ideas that we're going to just prosecute the president. However, I can't deny the fact that at least in the state of Maine, I don't think they're a Commonwealth, the state of Maine, a majority of people, at least according to the polling data, evidently finds this guy appealing. So the gripe might be with him, but what we really ought to be thinking about is where's the country on this, and at least the people of Maine seem to be, according to the polls,
I asked
more with
where's
him.
the country, where's the party, and it seems like Maine is the eagle's nest for these ultra-fascist progressives. Jesse?
Yeah, so he saw Fetterman, and he liked what happened with him, so he tried to do that. He's not a hick. This guy went to the best boarding school in Connecticut. His dad is a big-time Democrat donor, donated so much to Bernie that Bernie endorsed him. His grandfather is like one of the best architects in the East Coast. And so he went to war and served the country honorably and probably went through what the Democrats are calling a dark period where he got a Nazi tattoo and then said some things on the internet which I can't even repeat. Greg probably could, but I can't repeat them because I'm held to a different standard. But the Times likes him because he's from a good family. And he has a Nazi tattoo, and he wears T-shirts and has a beard. So they're like, we can get away with this. This is kind of like if Kennedy did meth, right? He's like kind of lowbrow. And so they're going to pull this off.
What does Kennedy have to do with it?
I mean, like, he went to Hotchkiss, you know, like.
Barely have a Celsius.
And so the oyster farm, the only reason he got this, he got a grant from the Nikaros Foundation, the Greek billionaire, and it was for blacks. And he got it. It's not even a real oyster farm. He just like shucks oysters and gives them to his mom.
It's a shell company.
Exactly. But he might win. And we own a house in Maine, so I have an open mind.
All right, so
We're union boss now, so you can...
Martha, one of the problems I have here, I know a lot of combat veterans. I'm sleeping with one. And I will tell you,
Your fiance, let's be
exactly right. He never got a Nazi tattoo when he came back from combat in Afghanistan, where he was knocking on doors and blowing the living piss out of terrorists. You know, he didn't come back a racist. It's not an excuse. And I really have a hard time for someone who comes back and tries to weaponize PTSD.
Yeah. Well, you know, it sort of shows you how thinly veiled the support is from the people in his party, and how quickly they're able to say, like, hey, he's a good guy, went through some tough stuff. You know, you watch Chris Murphy, it's like, I mean, everything that comes out of his mouth just seems so disingenuous and so blowing wherever the wind appears to be taking him at the moment. So, you know, I think this is a tough situation. I also think it's very interesting that Fetterman has come out gangbusters against him, because I think we all learned something about, you know, people who go through a difficult time. His time was a medical situation. I think we all learned, you know, many people said, you know, there's no way this man could be a senator of the United States. I remember watching him in the debate, like, you know, this is not going to work. Okay, it's too far gone. And now look at him. So he became this great voice for his party, but he's calling this guy out, and he's calling him an a-hole with a Nazi tattoo. He says Democrats really, really like Plattner in Maine, but Republicans effing love him. If Maine wants an a-hole with a Nazi tattoo on his chest, they can get him. So whether or not this guy can do a Fetterman and turn into someone who we didn't expect, that is up to the voters in Maine, but Fetterman is calling this one as he sees it.
Is Fetterman the better man, Greg?
Ooh, nicely done. You know, times have changed. You know, I remember not too long ago, you could be called a Nazi for driving a Tesla. Now you can have a Nazi tattoo, and no, the meaning is much more nuanced than you think. You know, he sat with anti-Semites, he praised Hamas, but he's a leftist, so that's okay. Hell, even Bon Appetit, something else. Bon Appetit, the magazine, did a profile on him because he's a foodie. He's a foodie fascist. I'm sure he makes a wonderful Gestapo soup. I bet he's really good with an oven. Ooh. But if you're offended by that, then you should be offended by the Nazi tattoo on his chest. Everyone has a past, but it's not about him. It's about those who defend him now, who called all of us Nazis. Some of these people branded innocent people as, you know, followers of Hitler. They even called Jews Nazis. And now they're protecting a Nazi lover. Screw them. So this is kind of personal to me because I've been accused of being a Nazi when I would go after them for using the phrase Nazi. They want us to understand him, but they put targets on our backs. People got attacked. This is a guy who's an avid fan of military history. who devours books on World War II. He knows what that tattoo is. He chats with anti-Semitic theorists. So he's not just some down-home oyster farmer, you know, unless you think Hitler was just a benign painter of serene landscapes. This is all, they're pulling a really disgusting trick. They tried to destroy people, Trump supporters, by calling them Nazis, and then they protect them. Imagine if any of us at Fox had a Nazi tattoo. Jesse, no!
Greg, why do you think people in New Hampshire, I mean, not New Hampshire, but Maine, are supporting this guy? That's what I can't. I don't
get it either. But I have a special place in my heart for the people that targeted innocent people and are doing this.
I sure you do.
Got some very cool
0%.
Coming up next,
I'm
Democrats
totally
are already hitting the snooze
dead.
button on Kamala 2028. Uh-oh, that's
You're
next.
not going in by any chance, are you? Well, I'll get up and do it.
Nope, I'm not going anywhere.